lose the audience that way. Welcome to What's Your Story? Every week I bring you guests who are authentic and genuine with practical information and insights that you can put to use immediately to improve your professional or your personal life. And today is no different. Today we're going to deal with one of life's little mysteries, business development, and how to become an effective developer of business for your company. My guest today is an expert in this particular area, spending a lot of time learning how to do it, doing it, and getting results for himself and his clients. My guest, Nate Sklaroff.
Hi,
welcome
Charley.
to the show.
Thank you for having me.
The audience always tells me, get right to it, Charlie. So let's get right to it. What do you do?
Okay. I provide business development and sales training to clients that really want to increase their revenue. I work with individual solopreneurs and sales managers and business owners, and I bring training. I teach people how to attract clients. I help them with their approach. I help them with listening skills, qualifying skills, making sure that they are asking the right questions and dealing with the right people to help bring a sale to a good conclusion.
So I'm going to put you on the spot right away, Nate.
Sure.
Give me an example of you in action with a client.
Okay. I worked in the past for a company called Fortune Franchise Corporation. And
I've heard of them.
Yeah.
Were they a computer company or?
Well, they placed their headhunters, executive recruitment.
Oh, okay.
And an individual bought a franchise there, and his background was he was a CPA, he was an accountant. But he never had sales training to speak of. And I actually helped launch his business. I taught him recruiting, I taught him sales, I taught him hiring, and my efforts contributed to him becoming a millionaire.
Excuse me?
A millionaire.
And here's a guy that didn't know anything about selling, invested in a franchise, and you were able to teach him what he needed to know to convert those prospects into business.
That's correct. I will say he did have passion, he had drive, and he wanted to learn. And our best clients really want to learn, and we'll try things that are a little out of the box for them, but yes.
There's a statement called reluctant learner. How can anybody be a learner and be reluctant? You either want to learn or you don't want to learn.
That's true.
And this guy was one of them.
He was one of them.
Give us a little sense of your journey. How did you get to this particular point? Because you have your own business now. So what was your journey like to get here?
So when I went to college, I really didn't know what I wanted to do, but I took a job selling industrial maintenance chemicals in Houston, Texas. And I was given some excellent sales training, and it was one of the hardest jobs that I ever did, but I learned quite a bit. I learned how to knock on doors and get people to come and see you and put people in a position where they felt comfortable to buy from you.
So you're calling on businesses here?
Calling on businesses was B2B. I became an executive recruiter, and I, for 4 years, placed people in consumer lending. And I had no experience in that, but I had some good listening skills, and I had the drive. And I was trained by an individual that when I saw him train me, I said, that's what I want to do. And I became a trainer. When I was a recruiter, I was considered a hotshot. So I had some really good production nationally out of 300 recruiters. But I taught the business, and I was good at that also. I loved the training. I love teaching people to feed themselves and to bring more revenue. It's very satisfying, and that was my passion. I have also, since and before I started my own company, sold financial services. And I've sold to the Fortune 100, so I've been in the C-suite, and I understand selling to higher level folks.
So it sounds to me like you've had experience in what I call transactional sales, like
Yes.
a one and done kind of thing.
That's correct.
And then relationship sales between the two. What's your preference?
Well, I really think that almost all sales is relational. People are only going to buy from you if they like you and if they trust you. Now, your offering has to be good. You have to have a good product or service, but they have to really feel good about you, and that's involved. The way to get there is by generating that relationship. So there's a lot of
talk a little bit
interaction.
about that, because I get the idea they have to like you, But how do you get them to the trust? What are you doing to engender in them the trust for you that you're going to be the vendor of choice?
Well, first of all, you have to listen to them and understand their needs, and you have to be reliable. You must do what you say you're going to do, because if you don't, you're going to lose credibility. So if you say, for example, I'm going to call you at 10 o'clock on Tuesday, you better call them at 10 o'clock on Tuesday. So if you do that, and so much of sales is being reliable. If you are reliable, you are ahead of the game, and that's demonstrable.
So with all of the people you trained to be successful, this may be a weird question, but the ones that aren't successful, what do you attribute that to? Because they both learned the same thing from you. Some succeeded, some didn't. To what do you attribute that?
Well, a few things. This might sound strange, but dishonesty is not helpful in sales. You really have to be honest.
And that's you can't teach dishonesty.
No, you can't. That has to be that has to be ingrained. I think drive is also very important. You have to have goals. You have to want to achieve. You have to want to close business. You have to want to really make your clients happy. If you can make people happy and feel important, that's one of the most important things you can do. So the people that are not successful, a lot of times it's really internal. They don't have that ethic or that drive.
I sense that you have the drive to make other people successful. That's great. So why do you do this? Why have you chosen this as your life's work at this stage of your career?
So I really enjoy helping people succeed. That for me gives me a lot of satisfaction. And if you can teach somebody to sell and increase their revenue and help them make a living, you are doing good and you are helping the economy. And if you can sell, it's not likely you'll be out of work. So I really feel in the training that we deliver that we are doing good for the people that we train. Not just financially, but morally and ethically.
Can you share another story with us?
Sure. I had a situation with a client who sold an online tax service, a filing service, and he had just 3 salespeople underneath him, and he didn't know why they weren't producing. And he was a very smart guy, very IT savvy. But what I helped him do was I helped him look at his salespeople quantitatively. I helped him look at the numbers. One of his salespeople wasn't doing the job, but he didn't know that. Yet he had the software to figure it out. And I led him to his own tools. I said, let's look at what the salesperson is doing. And he saw he wasn't doing the work. And so we changed that. And as other salespeople, what I taught them to do is I taught them to take their prospects and lead them to a close, meaning bring them to a demo of the software. So they didn't have that direction before I got there. And all I can tell you now, his numbers are on a positive trajectory, and they have been, and it's in large measure due to my efforts.
Well, thanks for sharing that. What I heard you tell me is an owner of a business who's not a salesperson, you can help them understand that sales mentality and how to drive the process, even though they've never sold before.
That's correct, and I can help them manage. In other words, even if they're themselves not a salesperson, I can still help with the tools to manage, to interact with their staff in the right way and give the right motivators and help them achieve that. What's interesting is that a lot of sales managers become sales managers because they were good salespeople. But what happens there sometimes, and I see this a lot, is that they never learn the management piece of it. Mm-hmm. So they're so focused on their own production, which is great for being a role model, which is important. But what falls by the wayside is the communication with their staff and the motivation and looking at productivity, and that's where I come in.
So what is usually going on inside a company for them to say, better call Nate?
So what's usually happening is either someone is trying and trying but not making their numbers, they're having problems connecting with clients, they're having problems closing a deal. You know, some people are, for example, great on the phone, they cultivate great relationships, but the projects they're working on don't come to a conclusion. So a lot of that is listening skills and knowing when to ask the right questions. That could be an issue. Or again, it could be a management situation where the business owner is making their numbers, but they don't understand why it's not happening for their people.
I get it. We need to take a break. We have to take care of our sponsors right now. But we're going to come back. We're going to talk more to Nate and learn things that you can put into practice immediately in your business, in your personal life. Thank you. Stay tuned. So.
There you go, Richard. Oh! Is that too hard for you?
No. Is it too hard for you?
Woo! We're playing catch now. Oh, shit.
Why should you choose Rowan College at Gloucester County? Low cost. The #1 nursing program in all of New Jersey. More than 70 programs of study, including selective admissions. With record enrollment. A premier partnership with Rowan University. Transfer options with numerous universities. 4-year degree options on our campus. Rowan College at Gloucester County. Now you're thinking.
Welcome back to What's Your Story? My guest today is Nate Sklaroff. Nate is an expert in business development and, more importantly, working with owners and sales managers in those companies to ensure the salespeople are productive in any way they possibly can to help the company grow. And before we went to break, I asked Nate, the 911 called in Nate to get in there and to help them. You were explaining what some of the issues or challenges were. So when they bring you in, what are they telling you the results are that they want?
Almost always the results that they want are increased revenue. It could be where there are salespeople that are failing, that have been there for 6 months and aren't producing, they're not really sure why. Or for a solopreneur, it might be their own business. They may have been in business for a while, but things are stagnant and they want some help. And sometimes with an individual, it's just like, let's go through your files. Let's talk to the people that you haven't talked to in 6 months or 9 months. Here's something I've done myself successfully. If they could bring a birthday cake to a client who's local, actually walk into a business with a birthday cake. If they know when the birthday is, they'll always get to see that client. Those are some special things. I'll tell you a quick story that another one that I did is trying to get into a Fortune 500 company. I personally sold a 5-figure seminar by cooking the decision maker chicken almondine in a plate, wrapped in foil, walked in the door, gave it to her. We got the business. So I bring...
So what do you think it was about? Was it the meal that got the business? What was it about that got you the business?
I think it was the creativity. I think the meal that I did bring took some time to cook.
Okay.
It wasn't a peanut butter and jelly sandwich.
Okay.
And
so you cared enough to do it right.
I cared enough.
You could have had a pizza delivered.
That's true. If your clients believe that you care, and sometimes you have to show it, it's not easy. If they think you care, you're much more likely to get and maintain that business.
I had asked you in preparation for the show, what kind of role do you play? How would you describe your role? Because I'm hearing trainer, I'm hearing facilitator. So what's the best way of looking at you?
I think all of that, but maybe most importantly, a trusted advisor.
Hold on. For the audience, explain that term, because that's kicked around a lot. What can people expect of you as a trusted advisor?
I hopefully will have people think, you know what, I need to call Nate. I'm not sure how to handle that, or I'd like to get Nate's opinion. My job is to have our clients feel comfortable enough that they can reach back out and get a sense that we have some good advice to bring to them. And being reliable and bringing to them good advice is the reputation that I bring to my clients, and I like to have my clients bring that to their business environment.
Thank you for answering that. Lots of successful companies focused on a gap or a missing piece of a puzzle for a company and build a solution for that. What caused you to get into this business?
So I saw in the training world, and I think for our viewers out there, they can check me out on this. A lot of trainers don't have the background in what they're training. They're good entertainers, they're good stand-up, bring good stand-up material, but they haven't really done it. And I bring some real world experience to what I teach. I've done it. I have sold in virgin territories, I have sold products and services, and when I teach something, it's because I've done it. I've used it successfully.
Oh, okay.
So a lot of training out there is, I think, with all due respect, substandard. And I wanted to bring some real experiential training to the field, and that's what I do.
So I'm sure you're in situations where owners, sales managers are considering different companies to bring in. So what is it that you say to them so they can sense the difference?
Okay, really good question. So I'll work with individuals and I'll do things that other training companies won't. For example, I'll sit and listen to somebody on the phone and I'll make a phone call. I'll make a cold call to model what a sales call should look like. My call may not always be successful, but I'm pretty good at it. But most trainers won't even do that. They'll say, "Oh, we don't get involved in that." I'm not concerned about that because I want people to feel like, yeah, this guy's done it. I'll also go out with them on a sales call and be kind of a fly on the wall to listen to how they interact with clients. If they are listening, using good listening skills, if they are asking the right questions, I'll go out there and do it. So I am fearless in doing that type of work. Most training, you won't get that from most training.
No, I mean, you're a coach in the field with the salespeople.
That's correct.
They must really appreciate that.
They do. They do.
Their boss is taking enough interest in them to have a seasoned pro like you going on calls to right there in a moment It's sort of like when a coach calls a timeout in a basketball game, he immediately starts coaching the players on how to do it better so it doesn't happen again, or they can take advantage of an opportunity to do this.
And especially when, for example, I'll hear a salesperson say, I don't think that'll work. I don't think people will give you that information over the phone. Or I'm not comfortable asking that question. I'll demonstrate that and show them that it can be done. Because, in life sometimes, we're our own biggest obstacles, and I like to clear that out of the way.
There's a lot of head trash that people have that impacts their ability to execute the way they have to do it.
That's correct.
Okay, and what I'm sensing from you is you know how to break through that and get them to rethink what they're doing and perceive it correctly so they can act upon it. What's been the biggest, think of different clients you've worked with. Which one do you look at where you say, I really made a difference there?
It's the clients that use the training. It's the clients that call you. If I say to a client, call me in the evening, I want them to call me in the evening to go over with me what they tried that did or did not work. It's the clients that are driven and the ones that really want to use the training that are open to new ideas.
So, and a lot of times those owners or sales managers may not have a lot of experience doing some of the things that you can do. So imagine it's 10 o'clock at night, it's a Thursday night, an owner just realized his salesperson isn't as prepared as possible to make a 9 o'clock close call.
Yes.
You going to take that call?
I will take that call.
I sense that's happened to you before.
Yes. And I also like, by the way, really good question, I also like when the owner or salesperson, they don't just take my answer and say, okay. I like sometimes when they play devil's advocate, they say, well, gee, I don't know, what if this happens? What if that happens? Or they question me. I want them to question some advice that I might give if they're not comfortable with it.
Right.
And that shows that they really, that we want the same goal.
Right.
So I want them to not just accept everything at face value.
I'm also getting the sense from you is that you try to help them find their voice. What I mean by that is, if you have every salesperson saying it the same way to every customer, it sounds formulaic. It doesn't sound real. It doesn't sound genuine.
That's right. And everybody has different deliveries. The old paradigm was driver, expressive, amiable, analytical, and those are the
Wilson Learning,
quadrants.
1978.
Yes, there you go. So each of those people can achieve the same goal, but they might do it differently. And as a trainer, you have to be able to understand that. You have to be able to sometimes say, you know what, let me hear how you would do that. To listen to them, to listen to the person you're training, and they may deliver a statement more softly. They may ask a question. They may, there's also parent, teacher, child paradigm. They might choose one of those. They might say, let me suggest, Ms. Prospect, that we try this, or they might say to the prospect, how would you do it? So there's different approaches.
But my sense is you're not trying to force people. I mean, when I say people, the people you're training, you're not trying to force fit them into a particular model. Do A, do B, do C. You're very sensitive. You personalize it.
You have to. Everybody's different.
Right.
If somebody doesn't, if they really need a lot of guidance and they're not sure which way to go, I'll say this sometimes. I'll say, let's try it this way for 90 days.
Okay.
And if it doesn't work after 90 days, we'll try it another way. But if you want some guidance, let's put an outline together. Let's try it this way, and then if it's not working for you, we'll try something else. There is no one solution that works all the time for all people. But if you listen to them and get a sense of their delivery and what they're comfortable with, you can shape training. And my training's very customized. I don't use a lot of set scripts and set pipeline variables. I build paperwork for each client. Each client is custom made. And I think that's important. And a lot of times that will give them a comfort level that it's not just a shrink wrapped solution. And that's what a lot of other trainers bring.
Okay. And I've bought sales training before, so I understand where you're coming from. And all sales managers and owners believe they're unique and different, and they want their representatives projecting that uniqueness to the marketplace.
That's true.
Our time is over. believe it or not. But I think you provided to the audience a tremendous amount of great information, and I really value this. So, at the end of every show, I ask you to look into your camera there and to speak to the audience and tell them anything you'd like, make any offer that you'd like. You've earned it.
All right, well, thank you. Well, if you're looking for some training, some business development coaching for yourself or for your staff, you can contact us. Our website is cheltenhamyork.com. Our phone number is 484-283-5700. Mention to me that you saw us on your story, and what's your story, and I'll give you some complimentary training to get us started, and we'll talk about where to go and if this is a good fit.
Well, that's very kind of you. Thank you very much, Nate.
Right.
And again, I really appreciate you coming
Thank
on
you.
the show, because there are people out there going into their weekend wondering, how am I going to close that deal next week? So give Nate a call. Again, I want to thank you for tuning in. Every week I bring you, on the show, I bring you guests like Nate, who are authentic and genuine. They have insights and practical information that you can take and use immediately. Love to hear how you use Nate's ideas to succeed. Until next time, be well, and see you again. Thank you, my friend.